ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another thing where we talk about things. Once again, discussing the Burland Campaign on into Chapter 3 of the amazing campaign. And this was another. We had a lot of consultation on what happened next.
Yeah, we got completely mixed up on what happened next, actually.
Yeah, because it was either... Because it all got crazy. And so we either went into space, or we got in the battle with the Mexican wrestlers, where we all became Mexican wrestlers.
And I had to like figure out some like timeline stuff, like some stuff we quoted that hadn't happened yet, or stuff we did that we put in order. But we're pretty sure it's going into space is what happened next.
Yeah, we're not positive though, because there are things that, like, for example, the leader of the Mexican wrestling group, I believe, was formally introduced after we defeated the Mexican wrestlers. So it was one of those, like...
Yeah.
The timeline is messed up, because we had plans, and then the plans changed, and then things happened, and so, yes.
We would have plans, and then I would go out and stomp on the heads of all of those plans.
Yes. And here's the big problem, though, is that, it's like we mentioned, we had people who showed up for a little while, and then they would leave. So, like, we had Rubber Band Man, was played by Sean. And the guy who ran the next campaign was actually Sandler himself, wanted to come in and do some GMing for us. And of course, Sandler was still a friend of ours. We let Sandler do some GMing. We explained to him exactly what we wanted out of the game. And I know that some of you guys who listened to the entire Children of the Sandler campaign cannot believe that we let him do this. And we knew that it was going to be Sandler GMing. But we were okay with it. We thought it would be right up Sandler's alley, which is why he was really excited about doing it. It was Star Trek versus Star Wars nerds, except that they had figured out how to actually produce the technology to create this stuff. And so we explained it all to Sandler. We told him, like, this is what we want to do. Like, if you want to come GM for us, this is what we're playing. This is our plans. We're going to be in the park. The community center is the home base for the Star Wars nerds. The park is where the Star Trek nerds are hanging out. They're in, like, the shelters, and they've got, like, you know, and it's cobbled together. We were like, think Kids Next Door. And every single group had a hero, or not a hero, a contact to the main organization planned out for it. And this guy got dropped out of the game because we let Sandler run. And we explained to Sandler, we were like, I got this contact, he's this guy, like, we're basing our, it's like 2x4 technology from Kids Next Door. And then I said, and like the contact that was supposed to be with this group, who was going back and forth, he was buying technology from them. He was like the root beer guy from Kids Next Door.
Right.
He had the suit and everything. And he was a final boss at the end of the game, but we never met him.
Yeah.
Because we told Sandler, we were like, this guy's important, this is what he does. He's buying technology, he's doing this, he's taking it back to Poseidon Corp. We explained all this stuff, and it was all just one of those, it was like, so Sandler ran that campaign. We had to retcon a bunch of stuff, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it starts like this, there are flyers going out about this convention that's coming to town, and there's a big convention, and I believe it was just a Star Trek convention. And
yeah.
That was about as far as Sandler followed the outline that we gave him on what we had planned for this game. But Joel and Scuba Steve decided to go check it out, I remember,
I was actually late to this session, if I remember correctly. I had no idea what we were doing, and later on I show up and you tell me what we're doing, and I'm like,
we were in space.
Okay.
Like Mars. We were on Mars.
I showed up and they were like, you're in space.
Yeah, you're in space. We're on a Star Destroyer. Like a real Star Destroyer. Like, real Star Destroyer? Yes, a real Star Destroyer. We were in space. It got so badly derailed. That's why we're just like, oh crap. Like that didn't go. We had to destroy all of it. Like we just burned Sandler. We're like, thanks for GMing for us, Sandler. And he was like, make sure that the Star Trek spaceship stays alive. I want that computer to still be in the game later on at some point. Maybe I'll come back and GM. And we were like,
okay.
Yeah, all right, buddy. It crashed in the ocean. No more. So yes. Anyway, though, so Scuba Steve and Joel go down to the convention center, and it's populated by Star Trek nerds. They're having a big Star Trek convention. And so Joel sits down, and Sandler makes him play a game. It's like a Starship Commander game. And Joel does really poorly at it. And so Sandler tries to throw him out, and then cuts off all reason for Joel to even be there. I'm pretty sure they badmouth him. And I can't remember. I think we had to like stop and reconcile, and because it'd been going so well up until this point, we had to like stop and reconcile and come up with a reason to get Joel to go back and try again, so that because Sandler had planned this one particular way for Joel to get involved in the plot, as Sandler was common to do, and so I think that Scuba Steve had to egg Joel on with like signs like "Come on, wimp," and it was one of those things that's like take rolls to egg Joel into going back and trying again. They're like, try again, and so we did it again. And the second time, Joel managed to roll well enough that they said, "Wow, you would make a great Star Commander. We had you all wrong. How about you come aboard our spaceship and lead us in adventures far beyond?" And
that's the plot of The Last Starfighter.
Is it?
Yeah. Last Starfighter is the aliens put an arcade game on Earth that's like a spaceship arcade game to try and find a guy to be their new starfighter.
Well, we'll say that Sandler drew a lot of inspiration from movies, so that could have been exactly what happened.
Maybe.
Yeah, but so Joel agrees, and they actually beam him into a starship, and this is when we're all just like, oh crap, Sandler, no. Like, no, we're in Burland. It's about gangs, and he's like, oh, it is a gang, and we're like, but there's a Star Wars gang, and he's like, no, there's a Star Wars gang. Let's go to you, Nathan. And so Nathan was at school, and I don't even remember how this happened, but it was typical Sandler logic, where somehow Nathan got roped into this Star Wars thing, and it was one of those deals like, I think that a girl flirted with him.
Yes, I think that was it.
And Nathan was a little teen boy, and so that was enough for him to just be like, okay, I'll join your cult. No question. They're like, come be a Star Trek nerd. And he was like, no. And he's like, this girl will give you a kiss. And he's like, okay, I'll go. I'm in. So I think he went, and they tried.
You got much more of an explanation than I did.
Oh yeah. No, well, because I just Shanghaied you into it. I think that like we needed someone who could actually fight because we started to lose horribly in the war.
At least you got told that much. I showed up after work and they were like, "Grouchy, you're in space."
Yeah, well, it's just like someone because the one team had Joel, and I think Lyman joined Star Trek. Maybe he stayed out of it. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember him doing much of anything in this game.
He might have been on the Star Wars side just by virtue of you being in it, because I remember Nathan was taking it really seriously and Joel wasn't. So like Joel wasn't trying to get anyone else involved, but Nathan was trying to get all his friends to join his team. Yeah. And but anyway though, I think what happened is there was a Council of Jedi, and what Sandler wanted Nathan to do was pull a Darth Vader. And I remember not doing it correctly. Like, I went and I was supposed to follow the movie and like get an apprentice, and then I was gonna get picked up by Darth Sidious, but I skipped a whole bunch of that crap.
Yeah.
Because I went to the council and they were like, they measured my midichlorians, and I believe they found out I had a bunch of midichlorians, but then like I had too much fear and too much anger and hatred, and it all leads to the dark side. So they didn't want to train me, but they were really more nerdy about it, though. They were very condescending about it. As again was Sandler's very ways. He was just like, oh, you're too stupid to be a Jedi. Was what it fundamentally went down to. And I was like, I'm not stupid. I'll show you how stupid I am. So I got my katana, and they didn't actually have superpowers. They were just pretending to be Jedi. So I got my katana, and I just in cold blood killed all of them. And they didn't really have weapons either. They had the little plastic lightsabers, and so Nathan just killed a room full of like teenage kids, and then he's like, "Now I am your god. I am the king." So at that point, when they came in, they were like, "You killed the council," and I was like, "That's right. I'm in charge of this cult now. I am the boss of the cult. I am your tyrannical leader." And they were like, "Well, Darth, what should we call you?" And I was like, "Vader, Darth Vader." And they're like, oh, well, Darth Vader, we have to go to battle stations. We're planning on going to war with the Star Trek kids. And I was like, oh, the Star Trek kids. I don't even know them, but if they're our enemies, I will kill them. I have adopted this cult, and I have adopted your enemies with it. Take me to our foes. So that was the best part about being the tyrannical leader up there. I was a great cultist.
Yeah.
I was in it for the long haul. Yes. So at that point, that is about when Joel was in deep space, and this was one of these things. Like, we cut back to Joel, and Joel there were tribbles, and they were eating this ship. It was just a complete Sandler, like, everything was falling apart. The entire game session was just a mess.
Right. Like, I remember another way, like, he'd planned something to go a certain way, and I just destroyed it.
Yeah, well, because that's what we did.
I don't think a single thing in that campaign went the way Sandler wanted it to happen.
What was nice, though, was that Sandler had a habit of not reading rule books. And the thing that's good about the hero system is that it's very flexible, and there's a lot more... Like, he didn't have time to create his own NPCs to try and kind of, like, smack us down or anything like that. So, we were still superheroes among mortals.
Yeah.
That was our big advantage, was that we were still able to do horrible things to these NPCs that
right.
would throw at us. And yes, the other thing...
We, by this point, were considerably stronger.
Yeah, that, and we'd been through Sandler's crap so much. I mean, I remember Alex and I were talking once about how good we had gotten at role-playing with bad GMs.
No, we shut him down.
Yeah, it was just one of those things. It was like as soon as any amount of like bullcrap rose up, we immediately just attacked it. It was like, boom, that is dead. We're not dealing with that.
Well, specifically, Grouchy's involvement is, again, I showed up from work and they were like, hey, you're on a spaceship. And they decided I was going to be Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And he was our mercenary. As ridiculous as this game got, in hindsight, I don't think there is anything cooler than the concept of an intergalactic bounty hunter Mexican wrestler.
It was pretty awesome.
That's like, you know how I was talking about like the Metal Gear Solid series and Raiden, and how it seems like no one liked Raiden, so Hideo Kojima just told someone to pick the 3 coolest things he could think of. And it was like, breakdancing cyborg ninja.
Done.
So yeah, and my side plot, and Sandler had discussed it with me, was going to be like, I was going to have a Romeo and Juliet romance with a Klingon woman.
Did he tell you that?
Yeah.
See, I was supposed to have like a Padme and everything, and that all fell apart. I think he probably talked to a bunch of us privately, because I didn't hear. I didn't hear about that.
And then the Klingon woman attacked me, and she was clearly trying to kill me.
As Klingons, that's what they do.
And this is the one NPC he put like effort into.
Oh really? He drawn up the character sheet.
She was giving me a run for my money, and as soon as I got the advantage, I stomped on her head.
Killed.
Because she was really trying to kill me.
Yeah. The other thing.
So that subplot died.
Yeah, that was the end of it. I'm pretty sure my Padme got killed too. I think that she turned on me once I destroyed the Jedi Council, actually. Because I think she scolded me, and I might have just killed her. Because, I mean, really, when you were playing with Sandler, that was always the best thing to do. Never let the NPCs, like, survive.
Never let them dictate the pace of the game.
Yeah, never, ever. So, yeah, but the other thing that was good about that game is I recall this distinctly, was that because we were splitting the group and, like, only half of us could play at any given time,
yeah,
a lot of times we were just hijacking characters. Like someone would start to talk, like Joel would start to talk to a guy, and then we'd just be like, alright boss, I'll be all over it. And so we would just start talking, like we would cut off Sandler, and then we would just like roleplay as the NPCs. And then they became characters.
And that was Mr. Potato Mata.
Yeah, that was how Mr. Potato Mata, the super homeless guy, got formed. The Potato Mata was actually based, I was reading BG Cats at the time, and like we said, we had some comics. We had a lot of references to a lot of pop culture stuff, especially in the online world. But I was reading BG Cats, and he had the homeless guy, Dr. Hobo.
Yeah.
And I think he also had a character named Potato Mata. And I liked Potato Mata. So we just combined Dr. Homeless, gave him that name. And then he was basically just a homeless guy. It wasn't like, we didn't hijack the concept really, but what it was is he was a super homeless guy.
Yeah. And
I just had like a 30-sided die, most useless die that I've ever possessed, because there's no game, nobody uses D30. But I wrote down 30 powers, and just straight out of the book, and I would just roll the die, and then whatever it landed on, I would use that power. And it was always like really weak stuff, like it would be like cloning, like, and he would just combine into another character. And so I was just doing this, and it was like, and so like Joel would be talking to Mr. Potato Mater, who would become his second mate somehow. So, and I would just roll and split into like a clone. And I'd be like, "Oh, you met my wife. This is my wife, Mrs. Potato Mater."
There was also no chocolate mayor.
Yeah, no chocolate mayor, because Sandler had brought like a little
It was a little Klingon.
Or maybe Joel brought it in.
He might have. It was a little badge that's like a Klingon communicator badge.
Yeah.
And you press the button and it said something in Klingon at you.
It was like no chocolate
and it sounded
mayor.
like no chocolate mayor.
Yeah. So, because we would just press it, like I remember Joel was wearing it, or Alex was wearing it, he would press it, and he'd be like, no chocolate mayor, what's the situation on the fridge?
So we just decided the communications guy's name was no chocolate mayor.
Yeah, that was another one. We were cutting Sandler off, not letting him actually roleplay the game. Because he was just like that. Then so he'd call, and instead of letting Sandler respond, he would just push the button, and then he would argue. He'd be like, no chocolate mayor, quit saying your name. Guy's like a Pokemon. No chocolate mayor, respond.
And eventually we killed the battery.
Yeah.
Because it had the little we killed the battery, so.
But no chocolate mayor became an
Alex
NPC.
would just press it, and we'd all just go, no chocolate mayor!
Like, no chocolate mayor, I need a status update.
No chocolate. No chocolate.
Crap, you guys brought in chocolate. So no chocolate mayor became an NPC. One of the better ones from that campaign, actually.
He stuck around.
Yeah, Mr. Potato Mater became an NPC. We also picked up Katrina, who was the sassy receptionist who worked at the Destroyer. She became a permanent character because there was a you could take sidekicks and they would cost like 1/5 the cost of a normal character. And so I remember I drafted up a character sheet and I was like, this is now Nathan's official sidekick, was Katrina. And Katrina was like in her late 20s or something like that. And she joined up with this Star Wars movement because she realized all the advanced technology that was involved. And she'd like seen a ton of potential, but she didn't realize how petty and stupid all these nerd kids were. And so she'd gotten herself roped into this whole thing, and she kept trying to steer the entire adventure towards like, let's stop fighting the Star Trek kids, and let's sell all of our equipment to the government. And we were like, no, kill our enemies. That is what we were all about. So, and that I think she was played by Alex at first for a while.
Yeah.
We had multiple GMs, so she got moved around a lot. But she became a sidekick for Nathan. And she was also probably the most competent character, one of the most competent characters in the game. She had like explosives expertise. I mean, like she had a prior college education. She had ambitions. The rest of us had none. And I remember, so it was always kind of hilarious because it was like she never really understood in her own mind why she kept following Nathan around. We had tied her to Nathan through the stars of character sheets at what cost. But somehow, I think it was because at the end of the campaign, everything was blown up and she had nowhere to go. But Nathan had superpowers in an apartment that he had stolen at some point. And, So, that's why it was like, he was like, I'll live here, but...
You got Katrina, and I eventually spent the points to keep the jetpack I got as Grouchy Fett.
Yeah, so some good did come out of it, but it was mostly just through jerking into the system.
Yeah.
What got terrible though is that Sandler set us against each other, like me versus Joel, and I got on a helmet and everything, so I was protected. Joel had no idea who I was, so he really thought that I was just some petty little Star Wars nerd, and that like he wasn't taking it seriously at all. He didn't know it was me, and I remember I knew it was Joel. And that made Nathan even more furious, because then it was like betrayal, even though Joel did not have any idea that who he was fighting. So Nathan was pissed, he got Grouchy on board, and you showed up, and I remember, then we found out that Sandler heavily favored Star Trek over Star Wars, and that he had designed the Star Trek team to be undefeatable. And it was one of those things, like I believe that the Star Wars team had better ground vehicles, but the Star Trek team had weapons with like infinite precision and infinite range, and they were omniscient, like their sensors could pick up whole planet-wide. Yeah, which might have been show accurate, but it just put them at a league so much higher than the Star Wars crew that there was not even a contest. It was ridiculous. We actually landed troops to take over the park, And Joel was like, they're like, sir, they used their sensors, and they were like, sir, the Star Wars nerds are taking over our park. And then Joel was like, oh, well, what do we have? They're like, we got laser batteries, photon torpedoes. And he goes, fire a photon torpedo at the park. And they're just like, aye, aye, sir. Boom. I lost like a fourth of my division. And I was like, really?
No, the thing between Star Trek and Star Trek has way, way more advanced weaponry, but Star Wars has magic.
Yeah.
And you didn't actually have that. Well, you personally.
I didn't have the Force.
Yeah.
I could hide. That was what Nathan did, is he hid from danger. Very, very well. That was his superpower.
So yeah, I mean, there are built-in advantages in the Star Wars universe over Star Trek. But that it was one that did not translate to our game very well.
Yeah, we didn't get any of them because the only people who might have even potentially had Star Wars powers did not have Star Wars powers, and I killed them all. But Sandler still had his D100, and so I remember I had to call in Joel, and we kept losing. It was so comical, and like personally, I was a little mad because I was playing it as seriously as I could because Nathan was really serious about it, and I was still losing. And it was kind of one of those, like, Nathan deserved to lose because he was kind of the bad guy, and he was the petty nerd, and so it was like, it was fitting. So it wasn't too upsetting to have him lose, but it was a little upsetting because everything I did was thwarted. So it was like really being like the supervillain, like being Lex Luthor. It's like, I try so hard, and I think through all the plans, and I do all this stuff, and it just blows up in my face! Superman just punches the wall down and he steals Lois away!
You know, the other thing I remember about this game is after I had that fight with the Klingon woman, I didn't do anything.
No, we had to do one thing. We got them to meet with us for Parlay. We found out that we could hide the Star Destroyer in warp space. And so we did that. After we found out that the Star Trek ship could blow us up from like a different galaxy or whatever, we hid the Star Wars thing in space, and we refused to come out until we got a hold of them, and we got them to agree to have a conversation with us. And Joel was just like, sure, whatever. And we were like, okay, we're gonna send over diplomats. And I remember you were the diplomat. We sent you, and I was like, Grouchy, kill everyone.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was probably the most damage that we were able to do to the Star Trek team, was that we sent Grouchy to their ship to discuss terms and conditions.
With a folding chair.
With a folding chair. And the condition was, you will all die. It worked really well. We killed like 10 people.
Yeah.
That was
our big victory.
That was the best that we did. I mean, we had like 1,000 people. We lost 250 of them.
That was
in the first attack.
You made the decision you wanted to like put effort into training your stormtroopers.
Yeah. We got like Sandler laid out these rules for like, here you can train your guys, put points into your guys, they gain experience. And so like we gained experience after the first conflict where I lost a fourth of my division. And the game was supposed to end when one team got wiped out. And so I sat down and I actually laid out a plan, and I invested into armor because we were able to do like some spy stuff. That was one advantage that we had, is we had like a spy. I can't remember. But we found out that their phasers couldn't do more than a certain amount of damage. They weren't designed for combat. And so we found out that if we upped our armor enough, then their standard weapons couldn't actually penetrate the standard armor of our guys. And that would make us basically invincible on the battlefield. So I did that. I convinced Joel to meet us on Mars. And I can't remember, I think this was Sandler's ideas. We had to go to Mars. So I convinced Joel to meet us on Mars. And on Mars, we went to war, and I was told by Sandler, I think we had superior ground vehicles or something, and that was the advantage to make up for the fact that we would lose automatically in a space battle. So we went, and then Sandler goes, but we're not gonna just have you guys battle. And I go, what do you mean? Like, my guys are invincible, their armor is not gonna be penetrated, how would they lose? And Sandler goes, well, what we're going to do is you're both going to roll my D100, and then I will assign values, and I will determine your victory based on this thing that I've decided to do. And so we rolled, and Alex rolled like a 98, and I rolled like a 4. So I believe that I lost like another 70% of my forces like in the second battle. And I just remember like I think that even Joel was a little bit mad because he hadn't even sent his army. Like I'd sent most of my army, including my crack soldiers, who I lost.
What you didn't mention is that Joel didn't care.
Yeah.
And
he sent nothing but red shirts.
He sent only red shirts.
Yeah, which accounted for like it was like 200 guys, and then I sent like, you know, my best. I sent my elites because we had like elite teams, and I was like, these are my crack soldiers. They start off with armor superior to what the red shirts can even wield, and so I was like, these guys are going. We're doing this. We're doing that. That was gonna be my big victory, and I was gonna lord it over all this stuff. Like I was gonna call and brag, and then they all got wiped out, and I was just like, oh my god, like this is so hopelessly one-sided. Like I say, it wasn't too heartbreaking because it was Nathan, and he was a little dork.
Yeah.
But it was still, I think that even Joel at that point, I think Joel called bullshit on Sandler. He was like, Sandler.
What was the it's a thing I read after that game that helped kind of justify it. It's the 100 red shirts versus 100 stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Because the rule of red shirts is that no two red shirts can be killed the same way.
Yeah, and there's only like thermal detonator, maybe strangling. There's not a lot of ways
that
you can...
There's maybe like 8 ways a stormtrooper can kill you.
Yeah, we fluffed it up to make some sense, but basically, long story short, was eventually... It was so one-sided, and there were so many, like, the war hadn't panned out in such a manner as to where, like the Star Trek side had so clearly crushed us that there was still a really strong Star Trek gang that was hanging around. And that was not supposed to be how the session ended. So, at the end of everything, like, I think that we just told Sandler, we were like, thanks for GMing for us, the Star Trek guys won, great job, great game. I believe we'll just take over from here. And so Sandler was like, okay, just make sure that the Star Trek, because he'd invented a supercomputer that he filled out like character sheets for, and he put it on the Star Trek ship and everything like that. And he was like, make sure that survives, you know, bring it back in a later session. And we were like, okay, yeah, sure. And I don't remember what happened, but I recall that Sandler had done something ridiculous just to torment Joel, and I know that Q got involved.
Yeah. That was the other thing that came from that game.
Yeah, I remember that Q was wearing an amulet, and it was the source of his power, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, and so Joel had a monkey wrench, and so Q started to tell him stuff, and so Joel just smacks Q in the face with a monkey wrench, and he takes his amulet, and the justification was like, now I've got this all-powerful amulet, I can do whatever I want with it in terms of superpowers, and the amulet justifies anything I do. And so that's when Joel learned to teleport. He became like Nightcrawler, but with a monkey wrench. And so...
It was really effective later on.
Yeah. So we came up with some explanation to crash the ship. The Star Destroyer got blown up. I mean, like, I think that finally I just launched the final attack. That's when we decided to end the session. It was like, we're done. Launch the final attack, get on the Star Destroyer. And I was like, go! And then so I took Grouchy, Katrina, and Nathan, and they all got on an escape pod and just went back to Earth. And sure enough, the Star Destroyer got flounced. There was no contest. It was just wiped out. And then we were like, oh, and then the Star Trek ship gets damaged, and then the supercomputer tries to take control, and Q does something, and so that ship also crashed. It went down in the atmosphere, melted. They managed to get some people off board, and there were some good things that came out of that. We got Katrina, the jetpack, the Q amulet, and also we established star cars, which in the wake of the destruction, we wound up with the few surviving nerds banded together, and they started a business selling Star Trek technology to people who wanted it. Who was us? So from that point on, we also had excuses to soup up the van.
Which flew.
Yeah, which could fly
after a while.
But only had a maximum speed of 60 miles per hour. Regardless. because Joel didn't want to pay them to like put in a really complex engine.
Right.
That was going to be expensive. So, yes. And that was what came with that, is we got some in-game excuses to do some things that we would not have done before.
Yeah.
But we kind of just forgot about the I mean, like, we found proof of aliens in that chapter, and that was stupid because they were all like trans-dimensional flesh-eating aliens or something. It was really bad. It was a typical Sandler mess. So we kind of just retconned most of it.
Most of it, yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff out of it, but we never spoke of where it came from again. It was like, space? No, I don't remember space. I never went to space. That didn't happen.
Right. Never happened.
Yeah, we always discussed, I think for a while we always talked about if we could get an artist to draw us comics of this gaming. We would always be like, well, we'll not go to space in the comics. We'll do our original idea and like be in the park with like 2x4 technology and stuff like that. So yes, that was the Star Wars campaign. That was chapter
3.
Chapter 3. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, got through it. Yeah, good old Sandler. This has been yet another Children of the Sandler. But panned out for the best, though.
Super Children of the Sandler.
Super Children of the Sandler, yeah. Anyway, I suppose that's it for that.
Yeah.
So, we'll catch you guys later.